Hey man, are you tired? Coffee's just not doing it for you these days. Let's talk about something different. Let's talk about cacao. Cacao comes from the Theobroma plant. Broma means food, and Theo means, well, God. So why aren't more of us talking about this God-like food source? Packed with antioxidants, polyphenols, theobromine, which is like caffeine but without the jitters, healthy fat, low carbs, protein, magnesium, calcium, and the highest plant source concentration of iron known to man. Why aren't we consuming this stuff every day? Well, you can. Our partners at Cora Cacao offer ceremonial grade cacao, sustainably sourced, plant to paste from fair trade farms in the Mayan motherland of Guatemala. Cora Cacao is committed to delivering cacao products to you at reasonable prices in a way that makes the world a better place for all involved. Whether you're making morning cocoa lattes, iced cacao, hosting a meditation ceremony, or just doing alchemy in your mom's basement, Cora Cacao is committed to supplying you with the highest grade stuff for what you, your body, and your mind need. So head on over to coracacao.com. That's coracacao.com. Use promo code INTHEKEEP, one word, all caps, at checkout for 10% off your order. It's time to replace those bad habits with good ones, and using Cora Cacao for your energy and nutrient needs is a great place to start. I'm proud to call Cora Cacao a partner of In the Keep, and I hope that you will be proud to call them a new part of your daily routine. Much love.
When I was 9 years old, I read a book called The Witch Family. And instead of thinking, ooh, that's scary, or ha, 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 I thought, and your point is, I knew there was magic in the world, so I wanted to go find it. Fast forward to 1973 when I was a senior in high school. That's the year that Live and Let Die came out with Jane Seymour as Solitaire the card reader. And I was working at Spencer Gifts part-time, and they had the James Bond 007 tarot deck, and I bought it. Because we were all hippies then. We had our elephant bell bottoms.
Wait, they
and our
had
David Crosby
Spencer's
fringe
Gifts?
Yes,
Then?
we did.
Holy cow. I thought that was a 90s kids thing.
No.
Yeah.
It's been around since like the 60s, darling.
Amazing.
So for 20 years, I read for friends, making sure that my ego was out of the way and I could be a clear channel. All of a sudden, in the early 90s, I found I could talk to do hands-on healing and talk to dead people with no training. That's when the universe handed me my draft notice and said, hello, you're working for us. So I did it part-time while I did other things. Actress, author, inspirational speaker, video producer, legal assistant, writer for the graphic novel series ElfQuest, executive recruiter, but always the psychic on the side. 9/11, as we watched the towers burn, I turned to my husband and I said, I think that I need to do the psychic work full-time. People need to know there are other answers out there. He said, I believe in you, go do it. Since then, 6 days a week, 14 hours a day, read about 1,000 people a year, and I get to get up in the morning. I don't have to get up in the morning. That's the whole key.
So it's a really, really interesting subject to me. So, bit of background. I was in the military for a while, like 6 years.
Okay.
And one of the things that consistently stood out to me was that we're not allowed to say anything like we believe in metaphysical, strange things that we can't prove. Anything that's immaterial, whatever. So in the meteorology department, no matter what you thought, no matter what your intuition told you, you had to, quote, back it up with science, right? And I'm a big fan of science. I like science. Don't get me wrong. Pretty good at it, if I do say so myself. However, I remember like, if you go back and listen to the Art Bell show during 9/11 happening, and a remote viewer calls into the station and says like, "Oh, well, we already figured out that this order came from a guy in a bunker outside of Kabul, Afghanistan, but it's gonna take a while before the military says that." Because they don't wanna say we heard it from a remote viewer, they wanna say we got it from intel. We got it from, like, real intel, because it's good, I think it's good to have both, right? Like,
Mhm.
if you have something realistic to back up your psychic, whatever it is, your ESP, anything like that,
Yeah.
corroborates it. But then I was reading recently, and I never really thought about this because I wasn't around at the time, but it wasn't really until, like, the Victorian era and then into the turn of the 20th century that it became, like, a requirement, like, science became the what would you say, like, nu plus ultra of
Mhm.
you have to back everything up you think with science in order for it to be taken seriously.
Yes.
So, nowadays, what I'm dealing with a lot when I talk about these things, astrology, hermetic philosophy, psychics, all this stuff, there's, like, this requirement where we have to, like, say, and the science backs it up because of this, this, and that. And same thing with talking to dead people, ghosts, whatever. I'm like, "Okay, why do I need to prove to you using material science something that does not is not a material science?" Like, it exists outside of these parameters, and you're telling me I need to prove it to you, I need to back it up with something that cannot possibly prove it based on its own rules.
Yeah.
You're like you're asking me to tell you the length of my entire house with a ruler. Doesn't work. So, anyway, I'm just trying to be open-minded and explore all of these subjects, so, like, recently it's been.
Open mind
Yeah,
is frankly what a lot of America is lacking at this point, so
yeah.
good on you, fella.
I was talking to one of the best video game designers of all time,
Mhm.
and, you know, he's older now, his name's Cliff Blazitsky, and he can kinda say whatever the fuck he wants and doesn't care what anyone says, and he's like, "You know what? I think that we live in a simulation." I think, if
Oh,
anybody's
Matrix.
qualified to say what a simulation looks like, it's probably me, because I made a bunch of them, and I kinda have an idea of how that works, and the more you look at real life, it does seem like we kinda live in. He's not necessarily saying we live in a computer, but it's like the reality that we're interfacing with is not the totality of reality. No, I didn't mean to rhyme, but yeah.
No, 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 it makes sense to me. Look, um, if, as we say, um, the the being
Mm,
is something beyond the body, the meat coat,
mm.
why would why could this not be a simulation? If supposedly, we all have thought forms and that creates the idea of, Santa Claus or a tree or whatever, his explanation makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah, if we believe that our soul is inhabiting a human avatar or something like that, and
I
that.
know. I always explain this to people. I say, go back to MIB. The guy flips the button by the ear and you see the little dude inside. That's us.
Sure.
That's your soul running
Mm.
things.
Yeah, it's it seems to be that way. Like, when I was learning how to do meditation, one of the first, like, revelatory thoughts that I had was like, "Oh my god, like, my consciousness isn't right behind my head. I'm not the little dude piloting this ship. Consciousness is bigger than this right here. It's not." Because I think, yeah, people see things like that, or like that Eddie Murphy movie, Meet Dave, and we do sort of think about the self as if it's, something sitting behind our eyes looking out at the world piloting this ship through space.
Mhm.
But consciousness doesn't appear to work that way, and the more we look at things like telepathy, like remote viewing and stuff like that, it's just kind of clear, if we accept those things as true, which I do, but I'm
Mm.
sure not everybody's ready for that, then obviously consciousness cannot be localized. It may be localized somewhere else, but it's not localized in what we call ourselves. Um,
I agree, but most people cannot deal with that. It's like they say, I don't want to come back. Well, you're not gonna,
mm,
and when somebody who is uber Christian says, the Bible says we're only here once, I go, and you're absolutely right. And what I do is I use a very simple audiovisual aid, and that's the hand.
Mm.
The palm is our entire soul, our entire consciousness. It doesn't fit in these little bitty bodies. So a thread of it comes down, operates the body in whatever manner, and then when the body is dead, it goes back up. And I explain when people can't understand that, how is that different? I say, all right, let's take the actor Matt Smith.
Sure.
Matt was the 11th Doctor. He was my doctor. When he hung up the fez and the bow tie, he became Prince Philip on the first 2 seasons of The Crown. And when he hung up the naval uniform, now he's some whack job on House of the Dragon. The Doctor, the Prince, and the whack job don't know each other, completely different, but all brought to light by Matt Smith. Incarnation, 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 soul.
Sure.
That they see. That they see. There are an awful lot of people. I have one dear friend who is probably the best medical intuitive in the US, and she and I were both in Robert Schwartz's books on pre-birth planning and life between lives. She is the guru on the mountain talker. I talk to the rookies because, look, I'm 70. I am not going to be here for another bunch of decades. You have to start raising the next generation. You have to give them the bite-sized stuff so that then they can feel comfortable enough exploring. That's how it works. And somebody has to be a way shower. Think about it. Any game you know, the hero goes along and meets somebody in the woods in a little hut who gives them a magic hubcap, and then they go on and use the hubcap, and you never hear about the person in the woods again. But that's all right. They were the way shower. They're the one who got them what they needed. That's kind of how I see me.
I was having a really interesting conversation with a guy named Dr. Herman S. Jr., and he's like a doctor of metaphysics. And, you know, I'm learning a little bit, from different people, different backgrounds, different ideas and stuff. And one of the things that like stood out to me is that you talk about that guru on the mountaintop. Like,
Mm.
once you're at that level of thinking in those terms, it's really hard, I think, to ground yourself back into like just regular people world. And, he was rightfully so. He's like, most people are just fucking idiots, man. Like, they're never going to get it. And there's nothing I can do about it. And I was like, hey, man, all right, I get it. I get it. I'm with you. But, like, isn't it kind of like the responsibility of a guy like you to help, even if it's just like plant the seed of understanding in that kind of person? Like, for every 98 people who are just going to be an NPC and go through life and not learn a damn lesson in this go around, there might be like 1 or 2 people that heard a sentence, a word you said, and go on a journey based on just that. Like, they start with, because in his own story, he was like, yeah, I really started thinking about metaphysics when I was watching The Price is Right, and I had this like kind of revelatory. I was like, okay, yes. So something you say in this conversation might be that Price is Right moment for some kid out there, and it might take them 30 years before it clicks. But that happened to me for sure. I was a complete total materialist until Saturn came back around for me, really. Then I was like, oh,
Yeah.
shit.
Saturn returns kick butt.
Yeah, it kicked my ass for sure. But I came out on the other side of it better. I didn't join the 27 Club. So, it was a big part of my life. I was calling my mom like, okay, I get it now, and I'm scared, and I don't know what to do, and I need your help. She's like, oh yeah, of course. How old are you now? Like, makes sense. Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. Well, I guess you said 9/11 was like kind of a big moment for you. So let's start there. What was it about 9/11 that made you say like it's time to put the boots on, start teaching people?
Because I had always loved the psychic work part-time, but I knew that the world had changed and would never be the same, and it would be more full of fear, greed, horror than we had seen for a long time. Also, my father, who was my best friend,
Mm.
had died just a week before. So everything seemed to be converging. And frankly, I was really, really tired of corporate work. When you're like me, you're smart, you're savvy, but you're charismatic, which means people either love you or hate you. I was always given to the bastard bosses because they thought I was tough. And it's exhausting. I mean, the last person I worked for used to throw files at my head when she didn't like what I told her. Done. Done. So I said, look, if the world is going to blow itself up, I am going to at least be someone who helps people find other answers. Which pill is that? The red pill or the blue pill? Um, so I did. I mean, it wasn't easy. Um, but I treated it indeed like a business. I mean, I keep my records, I pay my taxes. I do the social media, I do all the advertising. And that's why a lot of psychics can't make a living at it because they have no corporate background. They don't know how to run this business. But I have not worked for anybody else since 9/11. I've still got a solid business. I laugh at what the universe does. I mean, I used to be on the road 45 weekends a year. My nickname was the Travel Channel, and I loved it. And I kept getting this nudge from upstairs. You really ought to be home, No, no, no. I love, the travel. I love going in to hotels like a Hilton Diamond, and I'm getting the We're Not Worthy. So finally, the summer of 19, I got a herniated disc and a pinched nerve, which must make having triplets feel like a tea party. Let me tell you. Took about 4 months for, PT to get me back in shape, but they said, look, we're really sorry, but your career is over. You cannot do the 10-hour drives anymore. You can't load in and load out the heavy stuff. So that was November. I spent my time rushing to get my business totally online. What happened at the beginning of the following year but the years of murder hornet bingo and hold my beer? So anybody who just did circuit when COVID came, they tanked. My business just kept going. So that's one of the other reasons I know the universe will get it across to you and hit you upside the head with as many clue bricks as it needs to.
COVID was like the best time ever to be in the video game industry. It was like,
oh yeah,
it's the first thing I like it. Well, it was the best time to be in the not corporate video game industry. Like if you depended on having an office where people have to come in to work, it sucked. But like for every indie studio that was just like a bunch of dudes on Discord or something like that, typing away at their computers and talking online, it was like, oh, nothing changes, and I could focus on work more. Epic. And people were at home, they're buying games, they're watching TV, whatever, anything for entertainment to get them through that time. And the thing is that people didn't plan on that crashing when it, is like that. So a lot of the corporations were like, oh, great, we're making a lot of money, throw more money at it. 2 years later, it's like, oh, people aren't buying games anymore. Let's lay off 80% of our people. And but no,
I was lucky. I would get hits about 6 months before. So we had our pandemic pantry all set. I got a hit the beginning of 24 about what was going to come down the pike that we're in the middle of now. So we've got a year's worth of foodstuffs in the basement, and it ain't the, MRE stuff because I'm a good cook. So it's everything you need from scratch. And now with the way the USDA, FDA, there's going to be no more food safety, and it's a crapshoot every time you eat. I'm really glad I have that. So, don't ask me how we're going to get out of this because I do not know. Will we? Yes. Even the Reich was only 12 years. But I agree with Buttigieg. We are not going back to what we had. We can't. We have got to rebuild, which is, I explain it as the tower moment to a lot of my clients. And basically, for those who don't know, the tower card in tarot, it's a building struck by lightning, and there's flames, and there's people falling off, and people see it as doom, gloom, and destruction. And I say, I want you to think of it as the imploding sports stadium card. Red Sox want to build a new stadium. They got to blow up Fenway first and clear the ground. And that's basically what we're doing.
Have you listened to this podcast at all? Like,
sorry, I have to confess, no.
It's okay. I talk a lot about the tower. It's my favorite card.
There you go.
It's like it's the card that like falls out of the deck when I'm putting it away or something like that. Like,
Okay.
oh yeah, and yeah, Shiva must destroy the world before it can be made pure again, but it'll never be pure, so it has to be destroyed again. Every time we try to build something perfect, we're inevitably non-perfect. All that stuff.
Collie and the Morgan sell the popcorn. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, yeah.
There are 3 cards that weird out rookies: Death, the Devil, and the Tower. And when they come up, I have to explain it to them because it ain't that. And, the Death card does not mean you're going to be hit by a bus on Tuesday. It's death of an old way of life, what you've outgrown, what was never you in the first place. And the Devil card is not Mr. Horns and a Tail, and it's not even Jack Nicholson in The Witches of Eastwick. It's being bedeviled by something, someone, some situation, or holding yourself back from your highest and best. And that's one of the most important things. A good tarot reader, and I'm a certified tarot master, has to be able to explain the allegory if they're going to get it across to people that have never had readings before. Otherwise, they're just going to see it like every snuff film you've ever seen.
I think the problem with the Devil card is that people just have this idea of what the devil is coming into that, right? But if you understand even the biblical devil as an archetype, then the card shouldn't be too bewildering to you. We deal a lot with people's analytical overlay, like something that media has told them about what something means and not necessarily what it really means. It's the same as if you're playing a game or watching a movie and you hear a gunshot. It's not really what a gun sounds like at all. But movies have made us think that's what a gunshot sounds like. Then you go shoot a real gun, you're like, oh, that was surprisingly not dramatic like in the movies. I'm like, true. But we have this expectation built up in our mind of, well, in the movies, this is what a gun sounds like. So when they make another movie, if they're like, we're going to do real guns, I'm like, go ahead. And then they shoot it and they're like, sounds like crap. We have to do the block thing. Okay. Yeah, it's really interesting. I do think that like kind of the thing that ties all of those cards together, at least for me, is that they mean change or something needs to change.
Yes, absolutely.
People don't like change. Change is worse than death or the devil.
Which is why they panic.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons I also use a good 7, 8 different oracle decks.
Sure.
Because they'll each have a different meaning. One deck is specifically for relationships. One is your storyboard. Fairies Oracle is when you need to kick upside the head. But funnily enough, I also have a children's deck, and I don't read children. But
what's a children's deck?
I'll show you. When I'm at a psychic expo, I'm an A-lister, so I'm constantly busy, and invariably somebody wasn't able to get a sitter for 2-year-old Muffin. So a little Muffin sitting on her lap and going, mommy card, mommy card, mommy card. She goes, Corbie, will you at least let her pull a card? If all I have is my tarot deck, what if it's, look, Muffin, it has nightmares. So it's called Cat Wisdom, and it's nothing but kitties and puppies and squirrelies, and little kid can pull a card. Ooh, look, you're going to get a surprise soon. Kid's happy, and then I go back to normally reading. These are some of the things that I explain in my third book, which is You've Got the Magic Who Needs a Genie. It's every damn thing I learned being on the road for 18 years. Why should they have to reinvent things? And in there are also some interesting things called Corbie Gets Candid, where I explain some of the tougher stuff. Classic is I was doing readings in London, Ontario, and a young 20-something guy didn't like what I had to tell him. So the next day I come in and there's an anonymous death threat on my table. But I'm very smart. One of the things is when you sit down with me, unless you literally have Parkinson's or can't write, I have a sign-in sheet that you put your name and your birthday, and it's your first time with me. So we were able to match up the handwriting from the death threat and the sign-in sheet, and I turned it over to the Ontario police, and they took care of it. This is not a kumbaya business.
Right.
It just isn't. Never has been, and it certainly isn't now. It's one of the reasons I'm a Rev. Yes, part of it is because I believe that everybody deserves sacred ceremony if they want it. But 20 years ago when I started, if I went south of the Mason-Dixon line, it was hey, y'all, you're doing cards. You're doing the devil's work. And I'd say, oh, no, I'm a reverend. Oh, it's spiritual counseling. Rev, I'm so sorry. You go right ahead. Praise the Lord.
You got my
It's a
clergy card just in case that ever comes up.
Yep.
Yep.
Good man. Good man. Yeah. Mine is Order of Melchizedek, Sanctuary of the Beloved up here.
Every
But
time I've ever had that conversation, like what you're describing,
Mhm.
I inevitably find out that I know dramatically more about scripture than that person. Whoever it is that's saying that, I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, let's go. Let's talk about this because I'm pretty sure I probably read the book and you didn't, if I had to
Mhm.
guess. But yeah, go ahead.
As long as they don't come back, the devil can scripture for his purpose. It's great. Have a nice
Mhm.
life.
Yeah.
But yeah, um, there's so much about doing this work that is not what people see. They see the glitter, but no, we're not all Madame Rosa like on The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. We just ain't. So,
Mm.
You're listening to KEEP in the Keep. Please take a moment to tell at least one other person how much you enjoy the show. That's right. Grab that link and send it to that buddy you're thinking of who you know would be interested in what we're talking about right now. Maybe post it somewhere. I know it seems scary, but you can do it. I believe in you. Don't hesitate to leave a comment and a 5-star review, a like, wherever you're listening. And if you want, Patreon supporters for this show get episodes early, access to our secret Discord channel, chances to suggest questions to our guests, our games, and whatever else I can do for you. Every little bit helps. This podcast directly supports my ability to do what I love and take care of my growing family. The link is in the show notes. Thank you, bless you, stay in the keep.
one of the things you talked and you said that your mom was a medium. Um, I never had training on talking to dead people. Um, but it happened. I do my mediumship a little differently than a lot of people because I've seen too many fakes go, I'm seeing a woman in a flower dress handing you a rose. It's your grandmother. Oh, can I vomit now? Where's the proof?
Yeah.
So what I do is I get their dog tags. For instance, my father, Jerome Richard Dorkin, who died in 2001 at the age of 80, notice tells me nothing, but gets me into the energy. And oddly, what my guides like to do is they play charades. He smoked, he toked, he had surgery, there was an accident. Sometimes they'll give me words to say or attitudes. But it's one of the reasons I will not do mediumship um, on a public stage because I won't censor. And
Right.
my favorite story is years ago. There was a biracial same gender couple. The black partner had died, and her white widow wanted to speak to her. Now, y'all aren't seeing my face, but Tyler knows this is the nice Jewish kid from Cherry Hill, New Jersey. I have manners.
Mm.
But what comes out of my mouth in flawless urban ebonics was, well, shit, if it ain't my white bitch. And I'm going, but the woman in front of me breaks out laughing and nodding
Mm.
because that is how her partner, Isabel, walked into the house after every business trip.
Mm.
Now, I cannot do that on stage. But in, one-on-one, absolutely. What I do on stage, though, is a past life gallery because I can pull down past lives instantaneously. If I have a gift, that's it. But that's because I think when spirit hands you your draft notice and you take it, it goes rifling inside you to see what you got, what your skills.
Mhm.
Professional actress, I know stories. Published author, I can tell the stories. And I have loved history since I was a wee thing in single digits. In fact, that's how my husband and I met. He has been part of the Old Rhinebeck Aerodrome, which is a flying museum in upstate New York, since the 60s. And I picked up a past life of mine 2 lives ago, German pilot in World War I. So I loved the place. And as he says, I met this gorgeous brunette who knew the difference between a Fokker DR-1 and an F-1 based on the wing skids, had to marry her. Um, why that's important There could be somebody else who is also a very good person at past lives, but doesn't have the history background. If you show us both the same vision, they may go, well, it's a long skirt and big hat, just found a really ornate building. So I think it's Europe somewhere. I could see the same thing and go, she's in a hobble skirt. That's a picture hat. And that kind of ostrich feather standing in front of the Brandenburg Gate, she's in Berlin in 1911 or 12. But do not ask me to do spirit art because I cannot draw a stick figure with a sharp pencil and a loud prayer. Not my wheelhouse.
Yeah. One of the things that stands out to me a lot, and I'm learning this, is that I think when we watch our TV psychics, and they have this cult of personality around them where it's about me. I have a special power. I have this gift. And the more I get into this, the more I'm learning that it's like the power is not coming from that person. It's like I have a guide, I have someone that I talk to, I have someone that shows me things. And or I'm channeling something through me, but to assign I'm special, I have a gift, I'm important, pay me money is like a dead giveaway to me now. I'm like, okay,
Those are the ones that I say they think their aura don't stink.
sure. And the thing is that people who can see that stuff and also do it know immediately. It's like you can't bullshit a bullshitter. And you definitely can't bullshit an expert. So like I was talking about my mother earlier, she has a lot of cool friends, some of which I've, hey, what's up? Let's talk about this kind of thing. And my mom can tell me kind of immediately, like, I think she's gifted or he's gifted or something like that. Like he has the thing, but I have seen him make shit up in front of clients because it's like you have to keep that charade going. And it's like a disconnect. Like I'm sure a lot of those people truly do experience psychic phenomena, and yet they have built this sort of, we're talking about people being on stage in costumes and stuff like that. They've built this expectation around that they're like, I'm flawless and I can never let anyone down or whatever, and then they fall, one step at a time into that trap of being a bullshitter. And that's kind of terrible because I feel like if you're just honest with yourself, you just you just tell people like, I'm not getting anything. This isn't working for me. Maybe I need to call a friend, but my particular gift or my guide or I'm not able to pick up on what's going on here. But
Couple things.
when it
I
becomes your job, it's hard to say no.
I have a chapter in You've Got the Magic Who Needs a Genie about what you do. And part of it is ethics.
Sure.
And the ethics is you do not take money for what you cannot do. That's bad money, bad energy. I have always said on my tombstone should be, I'm not special, you can do what I do, because people can. They can. May take skills, but the example, we all have 10 fingers.
Right.
Everybody can pick out chopsticks. Some of us really love the idea of music, so we study and we practice and we get good. 1 in 100 million is Elton John, but we all have 10 fingers. So I completely agree with the ego has to be kept at the door. I came this close to getting my own reality show. But they said, and we have to tell everybody, nobody can do what you do. I said, you can't. That's a lie, because that's a lie against everything I've ever said. And they just shrugged, said, well, thanks, we're not interested, and went and found someone who was willing to lie. No.
I'm sure you know this, but like, I'm not even going to say the names of the shows. I'm just going to say a lot of paranormal programming that we see. Every person who's been on those shows doesn't like to talk about when they were on that show. Like they could tell you like stories like, oh, we went to this place and all that kind of stuff, but they're under like the most, and I'm in the video game industry, the most restrictive NDAs that exist. It's like you can't fucking say anything that would in any way disparage what they show on the show, and then for the rest of your life. There's no time limit on it. So it's just
Luckily, I never signed an NDA because I give this example to people. You watch the Long Island Medium, because I have something that I talk about called the drive-by psychic shooting.
Sure.
And so I say, okay, they show there's this woman in Wegmans feeling up a cantaloupe, and in comes Teresa Computer going, "Excuse me, your Aunt Doris. She says you have a bald tire in the back, and if you don't change it in a week, you're going to die in an accident. Just telling you." And she walks away. No bullshit. Number one, all of her PR people and her production staff go and they take a look at every single Wegmans on Long Island. Then they talk to the manager and they get the permissions. Then they interview everybody who's going to be on and they have to sign model releases. And then they rehearse it 6 times. But what that does is people that don't get the backstage think they have a right to walk up to anybody and start telling them things. And I tell my people, you tell them no. If they say, I want to tell you, that you just say, I'm not interested. And if they keep pushing, you report them to the manager, you're being harassed. Because you don't know, are they any good? Do they have anything that's real? And it's one of the things that gives the rest of us psychics a bad name. If you get approached by somebody from Lilydale,
Sure.
they'll say, excuse me, my name is Reverend Shirley, and I am a spiritualist at Lilydale. I believe I have a message for you. May I come to you? Magic phrases. And if you say no, they nod and they go away, knowing that if that message is that important for you, Spirit will get it to you in another way. But what this does is it makes the psychic's ego bigger than the other person's free will, which frosts me.
Right.
But I run into this even at psychic fairs. Remember, I said I'm an A-lister. The longest show I would ever do was a 4-day one in Ontario. 3 to 9, 10 to 9, 10 to 9, and 10 to 6. I would end up reading 70 people and do 2 lectures in 4 days. So at the end of a day, I bent over the table for 11 hours. My neck would hurt and I would do this. And guaranteed there would be some little rookie that I give her the generic name, a little dancing raccoon, would say, "Here, I can do Reiki." And she comes at you like this. I say, "Thank you, no. No, really, I can help you. I prefer not. Just let me back off.
Yeah.
You're not very love and light, are you?" Well, you didn't listen.
Yeah.
So,
Boundaries. It's like I always use it's like if you ever saw Dora the Explorer, like Swiper,
yeah.
where it's they have to say it exactly 3 times or else he's gonna steal their stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
But if you say it 3 times, he's like, "Oh," and shucks and walks away. But unfortunately, the real world doesn't work that way.
Opposite of Beetlejuice.
Yeah, quite the yeah. But they're probably thinking about the same thing. But show business is ritual magic. I know that's probably the first time I've said that, and I hope that people don't think I'm crazy, but it is like 100%. It's what they're doing to you. You are being hypnotized into believing something. So reality TV is really good at this, but it's just basically a black magician tool that's been around since the dawn of time of getting you to believe in a lie, which every reality TV show producer probably, if I handed them my tarot deck, have to pull the devil card. It's like, this is what you're doing. And people watch this, and there's nothing wrong with entertainment. I love professional wrestling and all that stuff. It's great. But, the question is like, are you fooled by the illusion that they're creating for you? So everybody can just easily go on YouTube and watch like a producer on a reality show talking to a person. You just ask them. It's like if you're in a court, you ask them leading questions. And then the first rule of reality TV is when the producer asks you a question, answer the question as if it wasn't a question. So, what did you have for breakfast today? For breakfast, I had, and then they just cut the producer out of the show. And that's how you get these takes. But it's not that difficult to put 2 and 2 together when it's like, okay, so you telling me after the fact, after this happened, now you just have all these cuts to another person narrating exactly what happened that day. Like, that doesn't work that way.
No, and it's like the shows, John Ed or whatever. You have an hour and a half of, oh my God, how does he do this? And you don't see the 8 hours that's on the cutting room floor. You just don't.
No, you don't. And it could be, I mean, I'm not gonna, I really, unless someone tells me they want something cut out, or if it's like, hey, let's go take a bathroom break. Like, I don't do the whole hard editing with the podcast, but I promise you, I could make you sound like just whatever we say in these 3 hours, I could make it sound like whatever I want.
I know that.
I could trim out.
I used to want to be famous, but now it's dangerous. Just is.
I've seen it happen to people, and I've had to, like kind of coax people out of the woodworks of like, I know you've been done that way before. I will not do it to you. I will send it to you before I put it out so that you can approve whatever's going to be out there in the world. If you want me to change something for this, like if you misspoke, I'll fix it for you because I don't want to misrepresent you. But then there's a million YouTube channels where it's like, oh, video game developer of this thing said blah 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 about something that would piss off, our left-leaning audience or the right, something that would piss somebody off just so they can get a bunch of clicks and walk away. And it's like that's just so abusive and it's really mean. Like why? What do you gain from that other than short-term gain? In the long run, all you do is run everybody off that would potentially want to do business with you.
I've done about 400 of these things over the past 10 years.
Yeah.
And so out there is everything that you're gonna love or you're gonna hate or whatever. But, it's like I use what I call my Elton John name. Corbie is Gaelic for ravens because I love them.
Mm,
And Mitleid is German. It means compassion, reminds me why I do the work. But way in the beginning, I used to read under my legal name. And in those days, it was the landline.
mm.
But I obviously knew that had to change in short order when I would get calls at 3 in the morning and the guy would say, "Hey, my wife left. Is she coming back or can I fuck the girl down the street? She's hot." And, no, thank you.
Yeah.
So now you got the Elton John name and my cell phone and it goes off at 9 o'clock and I have a life.
That's good. Work-life separation.
Oh, please. Absolutely. Time for my husband, time for my cats.
Yeah.
I grew up in the city. And when I first moved out here, we're in the tip of the Catskill Mountains. I thought I was moving to Mars, as Richard said once when he and Wendy came up to visit. There's suburban and there's rural, but this is lunar. But at the same time, the idea that I live in the middle of a little valley where I can't see my neighbors and it's just sky and mountain and peace. When you work with as many people a year as I do, you crave that. It's what rebalances you.
I would imagine that if you have a propensity towards like empathy or psychic ability of any kind, that growing up in a city would be extraordinarily overwhelming. I grew up in the fucking woods and it was awesome. I wouldn't change it for anything because I had so much space and privacy and like you can walk around in some places in America and reasonably believe that like, there's no dead people here, just me and the wood elves. It's
Mhm.
so peaceful. And then the first time I set foot on the ground in like Amsterdam, I was overwhelmed. I was like, "Oh my god, there's not a square foot without bones underneath you. Like where there's something happened here. There's karma everywhere." Like,
I trust me, I get that. Once I had figured out that I had this
mm,
past life as a German soldier, I remember that I went to the Western Front in the early '90s, and I
mm,
hadn't learned ground, center, shield, take care of nothing. I was just this wide open thing, and I spent the night in Verdun,
mm.
and I never slept because it was like all of the ghosts of the men who had been killed there thought there was a new party line phone, and I saw shadows in the room and scared the bejesus out of me.
Yeah.
But, interestingly, um, for a while, I seemed to be a doorway for the soldiers. I remember in Atlanta, um, all of a sudden I saw this German trained soldier. Half his face was not there, which means it was blown away. And he was caught in the gray spaces, which sometimes happens when someone is killed like that.
Mm.
And they all want to know first who won. And you have to explain it's, 100 years ago, it doesn't matter.
Fucking
Uh,
nobody won. You died.
yeah,
Like,
but you must be kinder. They have to get to forgive themselves
right.
for whom they killed, forgive
Mm,
those who killed them, and then you can help them get into the light.
right.
Um, it's interesting what I have done. A lot of people want to talk to their dead people, and I explain they're not up there in a nightgown on a cloud with hearts. There was one man who was someone who had fought very valiantly in World War II, had a chest full of medals, which I did not know at the time. I just knew he had been in the army. And when we connected with his spirit, he said that he makes a specialty of being there to help those souls who were blown up by IUDs to adjust. So because there's compassion. People say, is mom still mad at me? No, she's not. Because the life review we go through clears it so that you can be in your pure soul self. And there's nothing but compassion. That's one of the things that disturbs me, that people think, yeah, he's been dead for 20 years, but he still hates you. Get a life, get a clue. That's people thinking.
When you talk about being stuck in the gray area, like, what does that mean to you?
That means that soul fragment
Mm.
can't figure out how to make it upstairs because their death was so violent. Doesn't happen all the time,
Right.
but it can. It can. Sometimes you see what I call tape loops, which is when you see a ghost that's pacing through a room and everybody always sees the ghost doing the same thing. That's not the ghost. That's a tape loop of energy.
Right. Yeah. Fragment is a good word. It's
Yeah.
like that person's not still here. Something they left behind, energy that they left behind is still here.
Right.
And it could be positive, it could be negative, it could be really ugly. Like, I think about the metaphor I like is like talking about the astral plane, like Ledbetter's working on.
Yep.
Okay, you interact with these things that we call evil spirits, demons, entities, werewolves, vampires, and all that kind of stuff. But that's like, it's really not like an intelligent being so much so as that it's something that someone shed on their way up this ladder. It's the demon inside of them that they let go, and it's still here.
But that's very often the kind of thing that gets stuck around Ouija boards. Oh God, Ouija
Sure.
board.
Well, this is what a shadow person is, to the best of my understanding.
Yeah. People saw on Downton Abbey that Daisy and Anna got Lavinia giving Matthew and Mary, but no. I have had to because most people who use Ouija boards do not know how to ground center and shield to keep themselves safe. They just put their hands on the planchette and say, who's there?
Right.
I have had to deal with 2 hysterical, gibbering teenagers who, when they did that, the planchette spelled backwards very fast, I have an axe and I'm here to kill you. Trust me, it's not their Uncle Danny.
Yeah.
And for everybody who says, oh, it's a toy, what could it be? And I say, all right, especially if I'm lecturing, who in the audience has a kid or grandkid under 10? Hands go up. I say, okay, you, what's the kid's name? Josh. How old is Josh? Josh is 8. Okay, fine. Josh comes to you and says, Grandma, I got all A's on my report card. You said we could go pick out a toy. Let's go. And he takes you into the toy department and points to a box that says, my first chainsaw. It's in the toy department. Gonna let him play with it by himself? No. Sometimes people they don't have the brain cells that God gave wallpaper. They just don't. And you have to spell these things out to them in, glitter and big letters. So.
Ultimately, I hope that, there's going to be people that listen to stuff like this and they're like, this is a bunch of nonsense, and they walk away. But I hope that the people who do listen to it can, like, ideally find new ways to express what it is that they're already thinking, such that they can make it make sense to someone else that they're close to. And then hopefully there's like a trickle down economics effect over time where, more and more people are like able to communicate. All right, it's our number one. We talked about the tower earlier. It's our number one fucking problem is we suck at communicating with each other. Most disagreements are about semantics and misunderstandings and not really about not believing in the same thing. It's just that you call God and then I call him Allah, and I don't like that. So fuck you, or dumb.
When I work with people, I say, look, I don't care if you're Christian, Jewish, Muslim, pagan, or believe in Ralph the Wonder Dog. I really don't. Just know that somebody up there loves you, wants the best for you, and is willing to work with you.
Sure.
I did the cancer dance and came out on the other side 3 times. I kind of don't think I did that without help. But that's me.
It's hard to have that conversation with somebody who like genuinely is like, nope, there's nothing. Because I used to be that guy. I was like, can't prove it to me. I don't see any statistics. So it's probably not likely, and therefore I'm just not even going to pay mind to it. And then, now I'm on the other end of that and I'm saying like, yo, I understand that it's like I quit drinking because like I was having a kid and all that, but for me it was like I was, please God, give me a reason. And then that day I was like, "Oh, you're going to be a dad." And that gave me a reason, and I'm like, "Okay, so from my perspective, my prayer was answered." And we
Mhm.
could say that's a coincidence, or we could say, whatever we want about it, but, like, that's reality to me now, and I'm gonna be interfacing with the universe from now on with that in mind. So every time I look at that glass of wine, I have to think, "I've kinda made a deal about this.
Mhm.
Wouldn't be a very good idea to go back on that deal." It seems like if I play by the rules, I'm rewarded for that. So,
Mhm.
but I get when you say that to someone who's, like, not there yet, or maybe they're never gonna be there, and that's okay too, that it's just really easy to kinda write it all off. But
Have 2 magic phrases that I teach a lot of my clients when they're running up against someone who just will not change their mind
mm,
no matter what you do, and I just say, you smile at them and you say, "Thank you for sharing. You may think that if you wish." Notice, no argument, but you're not agreeing. It gives them no place to continue the argument, which
yeah.
is kind of a relief.
I like it when they get mad about that. That's, like, my favorite thing is I'm like, "Okay, you're entitled to your own opinion, and I respect that, and I don't have any interest in changing your mind." And then they're like, "But I want you to argue with me," without saying it. They're like, "What do you mean? Like, you're just okay with that?" I'm like, "Yeah, I don't care what you think. I don't give a fuck. Like, it's fine. I hope that I hope that you're happy. But the next time you come to me and you tell me I'm really deeply unhappy and I feel lost and I can't make sense of it, that you don't expect me to give you a different answer than the one I've already gave you."
Mhm.
And that's okay. And it took me a really long time. I had a lot of people really like extend the olive branch, and I was like, swatted it. I'm like, no, I'm not. I wasn't ready. Couldn't have handled it. It's too big for me
There
until it
are
was time.
there are too many things that I have known and done
Mm,
that can't be me, um, especially when it comes to past lives.
sure.
Um, One of my favorite stories, there was a woman who came to me and said, "I don't know what to do about my son. He's 29. He won't make any major decisions without me. He won't even live a mile from me. Something's going on." And said, "Okay." Took me about 20, 30 seconds, came back down and said, "All right, I'm seeing 1944 Utah Beach, so this is D-Day. Your son is a soldier. He's down. He's got shrapnel in his leg. He's bleeding out. You're his commanding officer. You crawl over, you pull him over a dune to safety. You take some shrapnel too, but you both live." And she looks at me and she says, "Can you see my wreck?" I said, "Yeah, you were a sergeant." She goes, "He's called me Sarge since he was 3 years old, and we've never known why." Um, there is something called First Night. A lot of cities do. New Year's Eve. It's, citywide, lots of fun, etcetera. So First
Mm,
Night, Saratoga Springs, a few years back, I did a past life gallery where people do mediumship galleries. And remember, everybody is bundled up in their puffy coats. I can't see what they're wearing. So a woman says, "Why is it that I am so enamored, obsessed with the home front for World War II?" And again, 30 seconds, I said, "You were a mother. You had 6 kids. 4 of them were sons, and they each went into a different branch of the service. You and your daughters, you did the scrap drives, you did USO, you did everything you could to support your boys on the home front
right.
because it meant so much to you for what they were fighting for. The son in the Air Force was killed, and you said to your daughters, 'We will not wear black. We will not mourn the fact that he died for his country. We will wear sky blue, the color of heaven.'" And that's what the women wore for a year for their mourning. And the woman gets up, turns her back to me, unzips her coat. There's a gasp. She turns around. She's in a sky blue shirt. She says, "This has always been my favorite color." How the do I know how to do that? I don't. the other example is, remember I talked about my dad. He and I shared the same birthday. He was my best friend. In fact, my first book is dedicated to him. That's us.
Handsome fella.
Uh, Dead ringer for either Gregory Peck or Abe Lincoln, depending. But he was a brilliant cardiologist. Brilliant. And sometimes when I'm doing medical, he does consult. So there was a woman, Thousand Lakes area, 74 and still being a nurse. She said, do me a favor, just do a baseline. And I hear the rustle of a coat behind me, and I point to the empty air, and I said, I'd like to introduce you to my father, Dr. Jerome Dorkin. He was a brilliant cardiologist, and he still does consults. Remember, I was a theater major. I faded it. Everyone else in my family was medicine. I didn't want anything to do with it. But Dad connects in, and I open up, and the first things out of my mouth is, what's with the T waves? I don't know what a T wave is. She looks at me. She had just had an EKG, an electrocardiogram done, and her T waves were abnormal. What did Dad do for 30 years as director of the heart station in Cooper Hospital in Camden, New Jersey, but read EKGs? So I look up at the empty air and I say, you're still a pretty damn good doctor, even if you are dead. He laughs.
Mm.
How would I know anything like that? It's not me. Somebody is allowing me to gain that information to help other people. The hammer does not go strutting around on the back deck and go, look at this tracks. I did such a good. No, honey, you hit your head against the nail. Somebody else held you. I'm a hammer. I'm a tool.
How do you
My ego doesn't get in the way.
how do you interface with like the why me? Why is this happening to me? Why am I the one who's getting all this info part of it?
It's an honor.
Uh,
It's an honor. It's a gift. Now, mind you, my family doesn't, except for Dad and my stepmother, my family doesn't believe in what I do. No, it's not true. My nephew does. But there are people in my family that think I'm a charlatan who steals people's money after all these years. It is hard to accept the fact that your family will never believe in you or what you do. But what I do is bigger than me. And I have brought relief, peace, important information. Part of the rules with my guides is I'm not going to tell you when you're going to die. It's none of my business. And I generally don't see major medical stuff. I'll send you to my buddy Stacy for that. But many years ago, the guy asked about his health. He said, I'm seeing something gray in the chest. Just go get it checked.
mhm.
Never saw him again. 5 years later, his widow comes to me and says, you read my husband 5 years ago, and you spotted something that helped us recognize that he was starting ALS. And because we caught it so very early, he had 4 really great years before he passed, and I wanted to thank you. And I smiled and I said, I'm glad I could help. It wasn't me.
Right.
It is vital, if you're going to do this work, that you put your ego aside. Because if your ego is involved, you may decide you don't want to tell him things. If my ego hadn't been involved, would I have told the white widow what the black partner was saying in those words? What if I was wrong? What if she would get mad? No, it just out.
Right.
So that's why it's not a matter of why me. Though I will say there is a great system. It's known as the Michael channels. This is not the archangel. This is a causal entity. Shepard Hoodwin is the guy I know that does the best channeling. And in there, the idea is the soul chooses one of 7 roles to play. Priest, sage. I'll go major, minor. Priest, server, sage, artisan, king, warrior, and the neutralist scholar. This is a soul that's been doing the priest thing for a long time. Even 100 years ago, when I was the head of a squadron, people would come to me and say, hey, Lieutenant, can I talk to you? I'm always the one that people want to talk to. So that tells me that this is simply a continuation of the work I am supposed to be doing in some form.
That's very interesting. So which of those archetypes do you feel that you fall into?
Oh, priest and my essence twin, I call it, is a sage,
Sure.
which is why, I mean, if you look at my chart, it's Pisces, Virgo moon, Virgo rising. I laughingly say I'm a flake, but I'm a really organized flake, and Grand Trine water, which just goes okay. So it is natural that I have a theater background, am a charismatic, but at the same time I can do the psychic work. But I tell people I take my work seriously, me not so much. I have done stand-up comedy about you think a psychic's life is easy.
Mm.
If I was one of the ones that thinks her aura don't stink, I would not be laughing at myself, God, no. I would make sure you knew how vital I was and you couldn't do what I do. That's the difference. This is important. This is the difference between a mentor and a guru. A mentor will push you a little bit farther than you think you can go, kick you out of the nest a little before you think you're ready, and sit in the audience and applaud you for getting an award at being better at what they do than they are. The perfect example is Meryl Streep clutching her Oscar, thanking her drama teacher at Yale. Gurus are the ones that write the same books over and over and over again, tell you that they're the only ones that have their answers, and now they take you on a cruise so they can tell you the same thing about how you'll never do what they do. But they have all the information. Now, you were talking before about the ones that make, they make millions of dollars off this. And sometimes I get told, why are you charging? It's a spiritual gift. You're just greedy.
Sure.
And, there are things that people say, forgive me, I'm going to make sure I have it right. But in 2 of my books, there is the thing about pay fair to play fair. And I get these all the time. How about doing a reading for less? At least you're getting paid. Can my friend and I have a reading together and only pay for one? Here, do a free reading for me, and if I'm impressed, I'll tell all my friends about you. Wow, that's a lot, but I really want a reading, and they stare at you. Or, why won't you give me a free reading? You're not very spiritual. You flip it, and you say things like, how about you change the pipes in my bathroom sink and replace my dishwasher, and I only pay you for one service call. Clean my house a couple of times for free, and I'll tell everyone you're good. Or to a doctor, why won't you see me for free? You'd rather I just got sick and died. You're not very compassionate. And they say, oh, that's ridiculous. I say, it's the same thing. This is a world where money pays for life. If you want me to do this 6 days a week, 14 hours a day, I have to charge. But I encourage my clients to spend less money. Do not buy more than you need. Don't get an hour with me. I am fast, baby. You'll do it in a half an hour. So that it's fair to them and it's fair to me. There is nothing wrong with charging for what you do if you're good and you're honest and you have decades of skills and certifications. There isn't. You just charge fairly. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, this is a conversation that in any we'll call it like artistic field. It's like how we have a culture ever since, the internet of people are like, well, art should be free. But no artist is saying that. No, the service provider is not saying that, but like people are like, well, it should be free to everyone. And like they'll, pirate movies, pirate video games, whatever. And I mean, there's always going to be pirates. There's nothing wrong. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with it, but I should say it's inevitable that people are going to take things that ought not belong to them. And the counter argument is like, yeah, but you're not thinking about my time.
You're listening to KEEP in the Keep. If you love this show and you love supporting indie video games, please take a moment to check out In the Keep's upcoming Stellar Valkyrie. Built in the GZ Doom engine, This retro first-person shooter puts you in the universe of space bird bounty hunter Falco, who is on a mission to save his ex-girlfriend from the evil Black Star cult. Just type birdgame.space, that's BIRD game.space into your browser. Hit enter, smash the wishlist button, and stay tuned.
Right. So forget about my skills or my integrity, all that shit. It's like the amount of time that people put into creating this, they had to pay for their ability to live during that time frame. Right. So at minimum, that's your burn rate. It's like, what does it cost me to live during the time that I'm going to make this happen for you?
Yeah.
And what is it going to, and not just like financially, but like, what is the time you're taking away from me being in right now? This is time I'm spending with you and not holding my baby, hanging out with my wife, all that kind of shit. Like, and what's that worth to you? And a lot of people undervalue themselves. You know, a lot of people are like, well, I couldn't possibly. I'm like, no, you're too good. You're too good of a person. Relax. You need to make a living. You need to, charge that extra $2 for your game, or stop putting your music out for free and like actually find some clients who want to pay for it. And learn how licensing fees work and shit like that, because you're talented. I know so many great music composers who will never make a dime simply because they don't know how to value themselves. And I'm like, okay, how long did it take you to make the song? Okay, I can't pay you hourly, but like, let's find something that makes it worthwhile for you to do this so that you don't have to go back to that job that you hate. That's difficult for a lot of people. It's like, you want me to spend my time being a psychic medium and writing all these books for you, and doing this podcast is basically a free fucking service for you. You want me to not be hanging out with my husband right now or whatever it is, to do this reading for you. My time is valuable. That's it. Like, it doesn't matter. Any other conversation about it is kind of really dumb. But I will say, like, I mean, as far as, magical organizations go, and like kind of the rules that have been passed down since at least the fucking Knights Templars, like, it's against the rules to like profit from it, Then that doesn't mean the knights shouldn't be paid to guard the fucking palace, but it's, if you're making millions of dollars lying to people, you're breaking the rules. And everybody knows that. And you're going to pay for that on the other end. It's like drinking. Like,
Yeah.
you're borrowing fun from tomorrow right now, and when that tomorrow comes for you, you're going to have to deal with whatever karma you've built for yourself. So if you're, in your case, I mean, from what I can tell, I don't know you that well, but I mean, if you're just making a living doing what you can do to help people, like, when you go pay your karmic debt, it's probably not going to be that much.
Well, and I do some things pro bono. I always will.
Sure.
For instance, as said, I'm in the book with Robert Schwartz. His book's Your Soul's Plan, Your Soul's Gift, Your Soul's Love, about pre-birth planning. And I do soul plan readings. This is when people come to me and say things like, why did I choose to parent handicapped children? Why do I have problems with abandonment? Why did my child die at age 25? And when we did the work for Rob for those kind of questions in his books, he would do the major interview, and then the psychics would come in and we would do hours of work. Of course, in the book, in the chapter, it looks like they just did this. But as I explained to people, when you book a session with me, I send you homework. You need to get back to me with the information Rob would have given me. Then I'll come to you with any clarification questions. Then, the morning we're going to work, I'm at my desk at 6:30 in the morning, and I spend 12 hours in deep trance meditation, pulling down as many past lives in detail as I can, talking to your higher self, checking the numerology, and then you're on the phone with me for an hour. So you're getting 14 hours of my work. But at the same time, what I charge you is 20% of what my hourly rate is, so people can afford it.
Right.
And I feel that's fair. At the same time, I'm on TikTok. It's under the No Bullshit Psychic. And every Thursday night, 7:30, I will be on live, but I do 2 things. Every other week, it's an hour of free readings, and I'm fast, so I'll read 30 to 40 people in an hour. And the alternate Thursdays are what I call Cafe Corbie. This is not a reading hour. This is a hangout where you can ask me any questions about metaphysics, spirituality, psychic work, or even me if you want.
Mm.
Because again, I'm an elder. People need somewhere safe to ask these questions. So that is how I feel I balance charging and not charging. So that I am, again, it's helping the next generation and showing people who've never had a reading before. I got a lot of rookies. This is what a reading can be like.
If
It's not gobbledygook.
if it's not valuable, the question to ask the person trying to talk you out of valuing it is like, if it's not valuable, why do you want it? Like if it doesn't have any value to you whatsoever, what is it about it that you want? Why do you need this reading if it's worthless?
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah, and they're the people I say, "We are not a service like a burger, a car wash, or a latte."
sure.
2 things that happened at psychic fairs that I've written about. One guy came up in front of me and said, "Well, I don't know. Why don't you tell me something you couldn't know about me, and if you're right, I'm right." I looked at him and I smiled and said, "I'm sorry. I don't roll over and fetch either," and I turned my back and he did not get a reading. And the other one, I'll take 15 minutes to breathe every 2 hours. And I was taking 15 minutes to wolf down a sandwich. He leans over the table, pokes my sandwich, and says, "You don't need to eat right now. My wife wants a reading." Luckily, I had a front person who slid in front, got him away. And again, I wouldn't take him into a booth. That's the kind of disrespect that we get,
Mm.
especially when people think we're fakes, think that we're carnival acts, think that they have we are not human.
There's still an entry fee to get into the fucking fair. Like, to go to the carnival, even if you know in your mind, like, full well, like, everything I'm about to do here is all nonsense. I mean,
Mhm.
if you pay a magician to do a trick that you know is not real, quote, unquote, "magic,"
Yep.
um, so even if you think that, it's still like, my time is valuable, like,
Yeah.
and I'm still a human being, I need to eat, whatever, yeah. It's I hate entitled people. Shouldn't say hate, but I don't like them. Um, but it happens, just in any business that you're in, regardless if it's this or whatever. It's like people, they want something for free, and sometimes you give them a little bit so that they'll come back later or whatever. Free consultation. Every lawyer in the world is like, "Oh, I'll give you a free consultation." I was like, "Yeah," and then you're gonna charge me $450 an hour, starting at the 15-minute mark. After that, and that's cool, whatever. But
And they get pissed when they don't like what you tell them.
sure.
Um, all my good stories are Canada.
That's how you know something's true is if someone's pissed about it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And again, this is why you have to leave your ego out.
Alright.
Woman came to me and I saw a couple of difficult things that she was going to have as challenges. And I told her, and she looks at me, says, "You suck." And she gets up and walks away. All right, fine.
That was your
Next time
first
I'm back,
challenge and you failed? What?
next time I'm back in Kitchener, Ontario, she's the first person in the chair.
Mm.
And she said, "Last time I said you sucked." I said, "Yes, I remember. Because you told me that I was going to take in a boarder and then I was probably going to want to sell my house. And I thought that was all bullshit. But my daughter got pregnant and moved home. And now I'm going to sell my house to help raise my grandson. And I still don't like you, but I want to know what else you see. Don't shoot the messenger. You
Yeah.
know? If your ego is in the way and you see that they're getting upset, you'll be tempted to say, well, what I really meant to say was X. You will not be that clear channel.
There's nothing more dangerous than telling the truth. People don't like truth tellers. They usually in our country, they get assassinated. Um, Rome would put them on crosses, nail them to stuff,
Yeah.
like, it's not a safe business to be in.
No.
Because you're confronting people with exactly the things that they're avoiding, and they like,
Telling them the truth, they know you can't be manipulated.
yeah,
So,
yeah. But what are some of the, I guess, like the things that you end up telling people that like they react the most negatively to?
Well, it's the challenges, but I explain to people, I will say, here are your opportunities and how to grab them. Here's the tough stuff. Here's how to get through it or around it. Here's your toolbox, go rock and roll.
Mhm.
It's why I don't like yes or no questions. I always say, ask empowering, ask how.
Mm.
When someone sits down with me, the first thing I say is, what's the most important stuff you want to get out of here knowing? Because I have a lot of tools. We can use cards for the everyday tour bus, house, car, job, kids, finances. Okay, gotcha, put me here. What the hell? Past lives. Why do I have this thing about Victorian China? Why am I afraid of oatmeal? I'm Scots-Irish. Why do I have this thing about Peru? I want to speak to my spirit guide, Binky, or how's dead Aunt Mabel? And I'm fast, but I can't do all of that in a half an hour.
Right.
So once they tell me, we start. If they say, I don't know, I look at them and I go, what's biting your butt? They'll know exactly what they want to do.
Sure.
If
Yeah.
it's cards, especially if they said, is my new business going to be successful? I go, and what if I said no? Better is, how do I work it? How do I make it successful? Multi-card. Then the energy around the business, the brick and mortar location, how to market it, clients, competition, staff, finances, what they need to know, and best possible outcome. All of that gives them tools. And that's an example of how what I've done before can work with a psychic. Executive recruiter, I canceled people and careers for years. I used that knowledge from my left brain to work with my right brain. Go ahead.
I just had this happen to me, like,
Yeah.
today. Where, like, I had a friend who also owns a video game studio, and he's, like, going independent kind of for the first time,
Mm,
trying to set up their email servers. Like, we wanna have, like, the custom name of company, all that stuff. I'm like,
mhm,
"Cool. What are you paying for that?" And they're like, "Well, Google's charging us an arm and a leg." And my first thought is like, "You don't really need to be paying Google fees. Like, you could probably, with the scale you're at, save a lot of money." And so in my mind is like, all right, I'm gonna give them to my business partner. We'll probably charge like a couple hours worth of a consultation fee to teach them how to set it up for themselves. Never have this problem again. And so then I'm in this like group chat that they've set up where it's like, okay, I'm gonna bring all of our people who would have a say in this, and you guys tell them what you think. And what we realize is they have already a person who knows exactly what we're talking about. Like as soon as we spell it out for them, this is what's going on. The other guy's like, oh yeah, I could do all that. And so all along, it was just a communication breakdown. Like he had this problem. He wasn't telling his DevOps person they would like to solve this problem. And I solved that problem by just starting the conversation. So I'm like, oh, I don't really care, but guess I'm not making money off this. And I'm like, well, my job here is done. Thanks everybody. Peace out. This is what we were talking about earlier with the whole, like the drive-by psychic thing.
mhm.
That's so many of people's problems are simply just like getting the connection to happen. Just like this part of the brain and this part of the brain aren't talking to each other.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's also protection for them
Mm.
because if they went to one of the fake gypsies, is my business going to be successful? It sets them up. In fact, the reason I wrote my second book, which is The Psychic Yellow Brick Road, this was a 250 person show in Toronto.
Also
And
the name of your podcast, right?
yes,
Mm.
yes. It's on hiatus. What I wanna do is I wanna do an audiobook of this, so I'm working on that right now. Um, but the promoters were wonderful. I adored them, but they could not vet all 250 people. So, I had my booth, and across was one of the fake gypsies.
Mm.
What's a fake gypsy? They put on the headscarf and the jingling jewelry and the long skirt, and they do bad accent, and they do kind of be gypsy. So a woman was walking down the aisle looking at all of us, and the fake gypsy runs out and grabs her arm. That's called hooking, and it's as bad as the other kind of hooking. And she goes, oh, you no need to pay 30, 40, $50. I need your palm for 10. Come. Drags the woman into her booth behind a screen. 20 minutes later, a bunch of us see the client leaving crying hysterically, and we rush over. Are you okay? The gypsy had said, oh, you have a family curse. How many in your family? 4. Your dog? $50 every family member, 25 per dog. He's small, we fix. And told the woman if she didn't burn 400 specially blessed candles at the Roman Catholic Church, I'd bless real good. Only $1 candle. Her entire family was going to die in an accident in 2 weeks, and the woman bought it. That's why this. The subtitle is How to Find the Real Wizards and Avoid the Flying Monkeys. There are 62,587,212 books out there to tell you how to be a psychic. There was not one that tells you how to be safe, and that's what this book is about. Good psychic guidance is art, and you shouldn't settle for a forgery. And I don't care if you never come to me after you read that book. If it keeps you safe with other intuitives, all boats rise. People are less scared of us. So, that's the kind of thing that frosts me. And people need protection because otherwise they're sitting ducks.
Obviously, we're going to tell people to buy your book, but like, what's the kind of short list? These are the tells that you're about to got.
The tells are if they're one-trick ponies. I have a mnemonic, psychic, P-S-Y-C-H-I-C. That's how to choose a good psychic. P is for professionalism. S is for sharing references. If, you don't just go to anybody, you get references from their clients. And if we're professionals, we all have several. Because you want to make sure they don't say the same thing all the time. Y is you're in charge, meaning the psychic, even the best of us are only 85% accurate. The only one 100% accurate is God, and he's not doing phone readings this week. C is for charges. H is for here, I can fix anything for a price. What I just told you is in that chapter. I is for inappropriate actions. C is connections. Inappropriate actions I'm going to talk about right now. In that the psychic should never say that your money, your house, whatever is cursed. So they need to take your will, deeds, stock portfolio, bank statements, and bless them for you. Those are private things. And you may know your psychic for 20 years. Do you know their cleaning lady? Do you know the person that comes to their house for dinner? You don't. If you need something blessed, trust me, we can do it from a distance. Second, they should never tell you that they know you from a past life and therefore you owe them money or have to give them a house, whatever. And this came from a good friend of mine. Her name was Sharon. She's dead 6 years, so I could tell the story. Many years ago, she was doing a group channeling she was attending in Washington, D.C., and the person who was channeling must have seen the word sucker printed on her forehead. My friend Sharon, wonderful person, she died several years ago. She was at a group channeling in Washington, D.C., and the person at the front of the room must have seen the word sucker printed on her forehead because she stopped them and went, Sharon, today is your lucky day. Do you know why? When I was high priest of Ramses II, you were the novice that had me killed, and today we can clear your karma. She damn near lost her marriage, her house, and her savings before intervention. I do not care if I figure out that you were Manfred von Richthofen, the Red Baron, and I was Kurt Wolf. I would not go up to you and say, Herr Rittmeister, so good to see you, and how's the triplane flying? Because it's a hook. You come to me for 20 years, maybe then I said, you know what I figured out about us the first time I read you? Then we go out for a beer. Third, you don't have to believe the way the psychic does. Remember what I said, I don't care if you believe in Ralph the Wonder Dog. Just know someone up there loves you, wants the best for you, and is willing to work with you. Notice I'm not even giving it a gender. God, it's way too big for a gender. And the last thing is, if you're coming off a bad relationship and the psychic makes moves on you, that is sexual predation, pure and simple. And I have only this to say. You wouldn't sleep with your psychiatrist. You wouldn't sleep with your doctor. You wouldn't sleep with your priest. Why would you sleep with your psychic? We can't keep our ego out of the way. So if you fall in love with your psychic, wonderful, get married, have lots of little indigo children, but find another person to read you. Those are the 4 inappropriate rules. The rest of it, we've talked about a great deal of it throughout the time we've been on here. If you give them that, then they know how to choose. And then you give them mnemonic on how they need to prepare. And that is answer. Accept responsibility for your part in the reading. No pop quizzes, no comparisons. State your intentions clearly, widen your horizons, evaluate the information, and respond to the universe. People like mnemonics. They like to know that they can have a little cheat card. And so that's why it's in there. And there are things about spirit guides. I mean, I've had people say, why did my spirit guides abandon me? They never abandon you, kids. They don't. They say, well, what's the difference between angels and spirit guides? And I say, remember Venn diagrams, math class, the two circles, and there's this little thing in the middle. Well, the Venn diagram, in my understanding, for angels and spirit guides are a donut.
Mm.
So the donut is your angels. You've got one, birth to death. It's like they have your name in the back of their tunic. I belong to John. Spirit guides grow and change as you do. You don't have the same teachers from kindergarten to PhD. My perfect example is my very first spirit guide was someone that I knew and flew with 100 years ago, and who I'm going to trust more than someone that saved my life time and time again. Since then, do I still have contact? Of course, there's always that heart affection, but I work more with my specific guardian angel, who is a higher vibe and is better. When I say an exacting taskmaster, they don't do this. But when I'm straying from a path, I can feel it and we discuss it, and they're very honest with me. Spirit guide, when you're human, there is still a human understanding. Angels have never been human, no matter what they say, and it's a wonderful life. So they will work with you strictly on a spiritual level. They do not care if you buy the Subaru or the Honda. They really don't. That's not what they're there for.
Yeah. It's so funny you brought up A Wonderful Life because I was thinking about it like two or 3 minutes ago, and I was like, I'm not gonna say that right now. I'm gonna let her finish her idea, and then you literally said, "It's a
Well, there
Wonderful
you go.
Life."
All right, so now
Cool.
it's your turn to talk about it. What do you think?
No, I mean, th- it's a movie and it's a story, so it's gonna use whatever it needs to do to tell its narrative arc. But like to
Mhm,
me, every time I watch the movie, I cry because like the way that the main character like goes through his life
mhm,
consistently paying the price for other people's debts. He's like a Jesus figure, essentially. Like, I'm
yeah,
voluntary self-sacrifice until
yeah,
one day it finally, pays off. And then even still, he's having the moment for him, it's on the bridge. But I mean, it in the Jesus story, it's the temptation of the devil in the desert or whatever.
mhm,
It's a perfect allegory. And that movie is very inoffensive, I would say. It tells the same story without any of the parts that make people feel uncomfortable for the most part.
mhm. Yep.
That's what I love about it. Every single time I watch it, and I watch it every year, I cry. It's just too beautiful. But I agree with you, like, the idea that an angel was once a person or that, when you die, you get your wings, after a certain point. Like, I don't think that's the case, but I don't know any better than anyone else. One of the you didn't bring this up about the book and all, and that's okay, but one of the things that I kinda wrestle with is in science, people are always really clear about this. Like, just because you are a scientist in one field doesn't mean that you're good in another field or that you're some kind of fucking expert in something else. So, like, I know a lot about the weather, and I can't tell you shit about biology other than any more than any layman does.
Mhm,
And there's the phrase, like, a scientist outside of his field is just as dumb as everybody else. And it's the same with anything. Like, if I go to my mechanic who only works on, American cars and ask him, "How do I fix my Subaru or my Volkswagen?" And he's like, "Well, I can kinda tell you, but it's kinda out of my wheelhouse. It's not 100% accurate the same way as if you brought me a Chevy or a Ford."
yeah,
That's an honest guy versus someone who's like, "I'll fix it," and then they charge you a huge hourly rate while they go figure out how to do it.
mhm,
I mean, it should be the same way, and if you're, eh, psychic or not, like, someone who's a spiritual leader ought to be the same way. If
mhm,
if you go to I don't know, a pastor of, like, a non-denominational church with a
mhm,
demon problem, that what that guy realistically should be doing is like, okay, that's not my field. I'm gonna go find you like an exorcist and
Yeah.
consult with him because no matter what you feel about the Catholic Church or whatever, when it comes to exorcisms, they're kind of the people who do that.
Demons are us. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. They're they're the ones who've done all the research and put forth a structure and such we deal with that. So if you're like tarot card reader is like, I will come deal with your demon, high propensity chance that she's not or he's not the guy for the job. Not the particular night you need to slay that particular dragon.
Exactly.
Ghost
That's why
hunters unfortunately put themselves in these situations like every fucking day where it's like, I'm just gonna walk in, find out what's going on with this poltergeist. I'm like,
I've got a ghost story for you
Sure.
on that.
Sure.
But to get back to what you're saying,
Eh.
yes, one of the things I teach my rookies is always have more people in your pocket. For instance, I can do GP health stuff, but if you have something serious, I send you to my buddy Stacy Wells. Why? She can literally look into the DNA of your body. She has seen brain tumors people have missed. She saw my cancer before the doctors did. She's fabulous. When it comes to things like entities, demons, etc., couple people. Locally to me, it's my buddy Tiffany Butler. The best bruja I know is out in California. Her name is Katrina Rasvold. She runs Crossroads Occult. She does wicked good work. And I'm using that in the main sense.
Wicked.
Wicked good. There was a situation where someone was doing some very bad shit to some friends, and I was part of that group, and I went to her, and there is a particular Santa Muerta ritual that she does, and honey, within 24 hours, stopped. So that's where I would send you. She also does Olympia.
Sure.
Olympia, for those who don't know, is a spiritual cleansing. And when I was out there visiting with her in 2019, her masterclass was there, and I let them do one on me, and I didn't think anything was gonna happen. Oh, was I wrong? Cleared so much crap off me that I felt like a totally different person, and this is not like, a cable commercial, totally different person. Layers of brain miasma, old ideas had been peeled off. That's not what I do. Me, I am your past life expert. Nobody does cards the way I do. Yes, I can talk to your dead people, but it's a little different. But I know what is not me. And I don't care how much you beg me, but I trust you. I'll say, I can't do it.
My whole life is just referring people to someone else who knows what they're talking about. Like
Mhm.
that's what I'm good at. I'm like, oh, I definitely can't fix your email server problem, but I know a guy, and I'd be willing to make the introduction or whatever.
I know that's someone that I call the networking fairy,
Sure.
the
Yeah.
networking godfather. And that's
Yeah.
okay. They are we are useful. I do,
Yeah.
you know.
Like so somebody comes to me and is like, I've got a ghost in my house. We need to fix that. I was like, I'm not gonna fucking solve this problem for you, but I will
Mm.
definitely point you in the right direction, or at least try my best to get you in touch with somebody who can help you with your problem.
Can I tell you the reality show ghost story?
Yes, please. I love reality show ghost
He's
stories.
been retired for several years, so I can say.
Mm.
My husband used to run an 8-building Revolutionary War site
Mm.
here in New York, 23 years. And one of the big ghost shows came because people heard ghosts upstairs. And because the old stone fort was from the Revolutionary War, you would think. And they come up, and you know how you see that scene where they're all coming and they screech in front of the building. Well, for first thing they did is all of these trucks were from LA. So they took off the license plates and put the Rhode Island plates on, and then they rehearsed that 12 times. And then you had the timestamp at 1:30 in the morning, still in the afternoon. And then they rehearsed it several times. They made so much noise, any ghost would not be heard there. And at one point, they said that the screams that were heard were the rats fighting the pigeons in the bell tower. No. I have no faith in any of the ghost things we see on television. Again, it's the reality show. But are there ghosts? Hell yes.
Every genuine, like, so you watch some of these shows, like Ghost Hunters is probably the most popular one, right? Watch them,
Mhm.
and you can tell who's there because it's like, well, this will be a fun adventure in my life, but like, this is seriously bullshit. And then the ones that are like total hucksters that just made their way onto a TV show,
I know.
and talk to them after the fact, and like, they'll, within the realm of their NDA, will be like, yeah, I mean, obviously that was television, and there's things that you can do with a television show that you cannot, you physically cannot capture with a camera.
Mhm.
Barry Fitzgerald was on the show. I'm fucking gigantic fan of his, and like, he was on Ghost Hunters International. And then, if you go look into what he's doing nowadays, it's like legitimate paranormal research. Like, and he's not telling people, "Oh, this is your dead grandma" or whatever. Now it's just, he's like getting into the real deep. Okay, this, in Ireland we call it the Fae, but this phenomena hates iron, and it seems to occur around geomagnetic anomalies. Some people call this the spirit grid or whatever you want to say. Happens along 37th parallel in a lot of cases. He's approaching it from the point of view as like, I am trying to do legitimate research.
Yep.
But on the TV show, it's just like he's just the funny Irish guy with a lot of old stories, you know? It's like riding in the car and somebody's talking about, "Oh, we're going to see Dracula's castle." It's like, "Did you know that Dracula," and that's fine. Um, that there's nothing, I shouldn't say there's nothing wrong with it. Like, the whole way that stuff is presented is whatever, but, like, a lot of the people who are on them, if they are legitimate, they're taken advantage of by the lure of, like, you get to travel the world, you get a big fat paycheck, you get to make a TV show, get your name out there. People are gonna still be talking about you later when this is syndicated. You'll probably get a lot of business from it. And the networking also, just being able to connect with other people who are doing the same kind of work with you
Yep.
as you are, also huge. But the TV shows are bullshit. It's pro wrestling. We know this.
Mhm.
Um, hmm. You
The
said
thing
you were approached. Go ahead. Go ahead.
the thing is, the general public doesn't have the discernment level to see what's real and what's bullshit. That's the saddest thing, but that's why these shows are successful. Now go ahead with what you were gonna say.
I'm just gonna go in a completely different direction since you said that.
No.
Yeah, it's fine. It wasn't important. If it was important, it'll come back up. Uh, we purposefully, not to put my conspiracy theory hat on too tight, but purposefully don't teach people about this stuff as a society,
Mhm.
which makes it easier for them to fall for the same old dumb tricks ever. If you don't believe me, go watch CNN and Fox News at the same time. Flip back and forth between those two channels, and like, it's so easy to manipulate someone who's not educated on what's being done to them.
That
So,
is why education has been dumbed down and they're destroying the Department of Education.
yeah.
Stupid people are sheeple, and that's what they want.
Yeah, I'm not even talking about, I think we ought to be learning about esoterica, occult knowledge, all that stuff, but, like, there's a reason why that's been dumbed down for all of history, and that's why we call it esoterica and occult sciences, but
Mhm.
something as simple as just teaching people reasoning skills, and this has been, like, my pet hobby horse for a while. Like, I'm 30. I went to school in Alabama, in, like, not the best school system in the world, but I got, like, a classical education. I knew who was the president during the Civil War. Uh, I know who, if you say the name Charlemagne, I don't think you made something up. Like, I have some idea of what's going on with this whole
Mhm.
history thing. And then if you talk to a 23-year-old right now who just came out of an American public school, they don't know fucking anything about jack shit at all. And I've been trying to, like, talk to teachers, like, who can I get to that would be comfortable not losing their job talking about this stuff, even if I have to do a voice changer or something. But like, what's going on with this whole education system thing? Like, why am I talking to a 23-year-old who literally doesn't know who Thomas Jefferson is or something like that? But if they don't know what anything that happened before 9/11 and that they think that's the beginning of history, then I could tell them anything the fuck I want about anything that happened before that, and they'll believe it. Or worse, they just have been taught now to think everything's a lie. Every single fucking thing that anyone says, like, allegedly, that's the truth. But, the truth is the earth is flat because I saw it on a TikTok video. And
Mhm.
it's then I mean, you can get people to kinda, like, vote for their own demise at that point. Yeah, something as simple as Reaganomics, like, you just get a bunch of people to think that you're on God's side and then
Mhm.
sell them on a economic system that ultimately bankrupts the lower class.
And the other thing is, in your time and way back in my time, you did the work, and if you didn't do the work, it was your problem and you had to get better. Now, the parents come and berate the teacher. It's all your fault that Muffin didn't get straight A's. You're too hard on her. What are you telling her?
Right.
So
Well,
there's no
Muffin's
respect.
real problem isn't that she's doing poorly in class and not studying. Her problem is that she's going through something deeper within herself, and we need to use words of encouragement to affirm what she's going through.
And
Um,
everybody gets an award. That isn't
right.
life.
Yeah. It's
That's
doesn't
that's more stuff that you and I could go and eat 12 burgers over. I won't say have a beer. Um,
it's
but
okay.
yeah.
It just doesn't work. Like in the long run, it doesn't. Well, it works for the people who want to have a long-term crop of folks that they can manipulate, get to vote how they want, get to
Mhm.
control, sell them things they don't need or shouldn't have, whatever it is, because they don't have the reasoning skills, the discernment skills to just make sense of the thing that they're being given.
Yes.
Um, so, I mean, if you want a group of people who wanna grow up watching reality TV and thinking that it's real, then just don't teach them anything about how to discern what that would be.
Mhm.
Um and it's tough. Like, my younger brother, he's 24 now, and, like, even some stuff that he says to me sometimes, I'm like I sent him a conspiracy theory article. I'm like, "Look, the moon is a hollow spaceship." And I was thinking, that'll be funny, like, "Haha, maybe the moon's a hollow spaceship." And he's like, "That's an interesting theory if you believe in space, but it's." And I'm like, "Oh my god. What did they teach you kids in science class? Like, what did you learn?" And it's not like they taught them the wrong thing. I'm like, "What's the planet between us and Mercury?" And they're like, "I don't know."
They don't c they're taught not to care.
Mm,
Part of it is well, it's how I explain the difference between a boomer and an elder.
sure.
Boomers think we had the best life and the best cars and blah, 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 and why don't the kids do it the way we did? And I just look at them and I say, "Look, when we were their age, we weren't afraid that we would be shot in school. We weren't afraid that the earth would be uninhabitable before we grew up. We weren't afraid that we would never be able to afford housing or food. Um, Kids today have a much tougher time than we do. And so a boomer needs to learn to get off the stage, help them be front stage, answer their questions when they ask. Don't think we've got all the answers
Mm.
because these days kids see no future. It's why they don't care. It's not gonna do
Austin
any good for us anyway.
you've seen
Well,
Austin Powers, right?
Austin Powers?
Yeah, the movie.
Yeah.
So he wakes up in the '90s, and, like,
Mm,
one of the first things he says is like, "Oh, great, it's the '90s, like, this'll be awesome." And they're like, "Hey, some things have changed you should know
mhm.
about." And he's like, "Oh, as long as we're still having, unprotected sex, doing copious amounts of drugs, and partying every day with no worry of what the future may hold as a consequence of that, I'll be fine." And then everyone just kinda, like, looks around at him.
Yeah.
Oh, he's in for a rude awakening, but that is true. So, like, I think a lot of people, my generation specifically, like the early millennial kind of group, idolized the '60s. We look at Jim Morrison and the Beatles, and we're like, they had it all figured out. And eventually, you kind of figure out like by the 70s, a lot of this stuff came full circle. Like by 69, you had, Manson, Jim Jones, all this kind of stuff starting to happen. And it's like they talk about all the wonderful art, and it's all true. Like the art, the music, the freedom, the culture, the exchange of ideas that was happening between, the East and West, and all the age of Aquarius, all that awesome stuff. And they never talk about all the young women who were taken advantage of, pregnant, on the streets, fucking homeless, disease running rampant. Just the fuck. Don't even get me started on Vietnam veterans. No one wants to talk about that stuff.
Yeah. Part of it is also, if you look, that's when the current rulers
Sure.
started. 64 with Cold War. And that's why, if you want to bring things back, it's going to take us decades. I will not live to see it, and I know it, but I can help plant seeds. You know?
What do you think about the? Go ahead.
Now, what do I think about the what?
The age of Aquarius. You said
Yes.
indigo children earlier, and it sparked my curiosity.
So are we talking about back when I was 13 and saw a yellow submarine for the first time, age of Aquarius, or are we talking?
Let's start there and work our way up to it. Yeah.
Okay. That was when psychic stuff first came out from under rocks. And it was everything for me because I knew that this world was not all there was. Loved it. Loved it. To this day. So 68. In 2018, they had the 50th anniversary of Yellow Submarine, and it was in a lot of theaters. And I went and saw it, and there was the same magic, and I was getting up and dancing, and I was crying because it was a time that would never come back. Never. And I saw how the world had become dark and grubby and greedy. Astrology is not my strong point. For that, I would highly recommend that you talk to Pat Dumas, who is just brilliant, and I'll get you in touch with her. But one of the things that a lot of people are seeing is that there is going to be a shift now. And that brings you to, fling it all the way on the side of the football field, the fact that we are at a Pluto return for the United States. It was like this 248 years ago. Well, what was happening then? Oh, the revolution, which is why a lot of the things are becoming revolting now. We have to change. Age of Aquarius was wonderful, but we weren't ready for it then. We didn't. It's like you can want to be a cook and have all of these ingredients, but if you have no experience of it, you better have a cookbook with you. Because we had all these wonderful ideas, but we didn't have a way of bringing them forward. That's why the other people in the 60s and who brought us where we are now got it right. As my husband said recently, it is very difficult to have a revolution by law, following the things that you know are right. Revolutions are made to break things down. It's one of the reasons I love the fact that Pete Buttigieg has said we cannot go back and build what we had in the 60s. We have to. It'll take generations, but build for the 21st century.
Yeah.
And this time we had better plan, not just feel good and hope it gets right.
It was an emotion-driven time.
It really was.
Left side of the tree of life time.
But emotion is wonderful, but you have to build something. My stepsister, Happy Wells, brilliant sculptress. When she does a bronze bust, she has a wire skeleton underneath that the clay goes on top, and then they fires it and the bronze, etc. You can't just have this bronze thing. You have to build the skeleton underneath, which holds the beauty. And that is what we're going to need to do if we ever get, like, Aquarius Part 2. We have to do the skeleton underneath the structure, what will hold it up before we think that it's going to last.
What is an indigo child?
An indigo child, well, you've
Found out that it's not a rainbow child, and I should never make that mistake again, by the way.
indigo, crystal, and rainbows, yes.
Yeah.
Indigo children, some of us, my generation, were called scouts, came in early. An indigo child does not go A to B to C to D. It goes A to Z to green to Paris.
Mm.
It does not like rules. It has imaginary friends. It is the warrior type who wants change. The crystal child is more like they're from Marin County. If you saw Earth Girls Are Easy, that's all good. They're much gentler about things. Okay. And it was hoped that the indigos, the warriors, would come in and clean stuff up so the crystals could come in and do their work.
Uh-huh.
Indigos weren't as successful as they needed to be. That's why they're still coming in. And crystals are those really sensitive, brilliant children. Very. Yeah, since I never had kids, I'm just the biggest kid in the room. I can't speak from the point of view of a mom.
Sure.
But there is a book. That's the other thing about professionals. We have lists of books, people. The one that explains it really well is called The Children of Now, Crystalline Children, Indigo Children, Star Kids, Angels on Earth. It's by Meg Lowy.
I will make sure that goes in the show notes. Meg
Okay.
Lowy, you say?
I will send you all the stuff that's on this. I'll send you, relax on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you say there's more of them coming in still, like
Indigos, yeah.
where are they coming from? What does that mean?
Historic brings them. No, seriously. They are souls that come in specifically. There was nothing that said the soul of Paramahansa Yogananda wasn't human, but it was a soul that was more developed based on what it learned outside humanity and other things. People talk about soulmates and twin flames.
Yep.
Soulmates are not your one and only. If they were, we'd never get divorced. They're your core team. And we have more than one. In my life, for instance, my father was my best friend. He was a soulmate. This husband, yes. Last husband, no. Things like that. Twin flames are the ones you cannot imagine with anybody else. John and Yoko, Humphrey Bogart, Lauren Bacall, people like that. But they're not, again, always love. There was a 17, 18-year-old young lady who met Yogananda and immediately became his disciple. She was with him. She died at age 96. Her name was changed to Sri Dayamata. They were twin flames, but there was never anything sexual. It was just the connection to do the work. The souls that understood each other better than anything else. So as far as indigos, they are a certain level of understanding. People often say, how many past lives have I had? Do I have more than my friend? It doesn't matter. It's also, are you human or other? Writing for ElfQuest, I really learned what other was. And there are people that come to me and they don't feel like they belong here. They long for home. They don't understand a lot of things. And I'll say, okay, I want to give you 2 words. And I want you to close your eyes and immediately answer to the one that makes sense to you. Human. Other. And if they're other, their eyes fly open and they start crying. Somebody sees them. Me, I'm human. This soul comes in human every single time. And interestingly, it always comes, not always, but many times has come in at the end of things on the losing side.
You're listening to KEEP in the Keep. Whatever happened to the good old days, when computer role-playing games spent more time telling great stories than stressing you out with season passes and needless grinding? Call of Seregnar is our effort to bring back the best in RPGs. Play in the immersive world, as two friends adventure into a murder mystery that lands them in the middle of a battle between gods. Head over to callofsaregnar.com. That's callofsaregnar.com for more info. And be sure to wishlist on Steam.
Wars of the Roses, York versus Lancaster in the 15th century. I was Yorkist. I was killed on the field. Northern Arapaho leader, when they were shoved onto the res, couldn't do anything to stop it. World War I, German pilot, they lost. This time, interestingly, I came in female and not a fighter. And America is lost. It will be rebuilt, but we've lost what we had. And I imagine that I came in female and with these abilities to do work. I'm not going to be killed on the field, but to help people get to the other side because I've experienced the loss so many times before. So indigos, crystals, they know they have extra work down here. They've chosen that vibe. They've chosen that life path. So there are lots more coming because we need them.
What do you think about magical orders and mystery schools?
What do I think about Harvard versus Brown versus University of Rhode Island and RISD?
Yeah.
As long as you don't say, because I was in the Order of Purple Unicorns, I'm better than the person who is the Green Arrow Mystery School. You know, they're useful for learning. They teach you ritual and hopefully how to honor the magic. But it doesn't mean that if you don't go there, I did not go to the Arthur Findlay School for Mediumship. I can still talk to dead people. Nobody taught me how to read cards, but I am a certified tarot master because I learned through life. So the schools are great as long as what they teach is useful, true, but don't think that means your aura don't stink. That's all.
Yeah, it's interesting. Even just the Freemasons, split off in the 90s because they were like, we don't want girls, and then the Co-Masons were like, well, we like girls. They're cool. They're smart. They know a lot of stuff we don't know. I remember reading Aleister Crowley fucking hated the Co-Masons. He was like not having anything to do with it. But then he went off and started the AA and the OTO and did his thing. He got into some less than happy things in his life, as I understand it. But yeah, I like structure. I should say I need structure. Probably reason why I went into like the Air Force, and then like running a company makes sense to me and stuff like that. Like being able to give someone a curriculum and delegate tasks works. Since the time of Uncle Jethro and Moses, at least. But at the same time, like all these schisms between them and the disagreement makes it pretty clear to me that, like, okay, there are a lot of different points of view, and the esoteric order of the Golden Dawn or whatever. And ultimately, it's like, to me, it's like, where do all these paths cross? The Theosophical Society specifically, like, have their own things that I'm like, well, I don't know about all that, but I like the open communication of like, let's look at all these different ideas and compare them, giving people a place where they can talk about that without fear of being judged or thrown out or excommunicated from the tribe. Or those are important. Now we live in like a pretty, you and me could talk about stuff on this podcast that if it was in the wrong setting or a different time, we would both be, dragged out of the fucking place and be like, you can't talk about that. Well, why not? Like, because it's the devil or something. And that would be the end of that passive life for us. We'd have to come back as Indigo kids and try to fix where that got cut off. But I don't know. For me, that was like always kind of the scariest part of approaching these subjects was like, what if people think I'm crazy? What if they lock me in a loony bin? Like, what if they don't like it?
Because I grew up in a very dysfunctional family.
Mm.
My mother was an alcoholic, cross-addicted with barbiturates who kept saying, "I think I'm wonderful and you don't deserve me."
I know the
And
type. Codependent.
yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah.
And, being told, you know, more things than I wanna go into here, but I knew that I was always going to be wrong, so it didn't matter. And interestingly, that's been, um, another psychic theme that I'm gonna have to ask my higher self, "What the were you thinking?" Many, many times in my life, I've done everything I was supposed to, and they always found a reason why to yank things away from me. Um, the teacher I hero worshipped in high school blackballed me, so even though I got into Brown, I was not National Honor Society. A dear friend of mine and I did ragtime dancing and loved it, and for fun, we entered a contest, and we were far and away the best, but somebody else won because we were dragged aside and said, "You're obviously professionals, you're cheating, so we've disqualified you." In a medieval reenactment group I was in, um, I was doing some theater, this was for the Arts Award, and they said, "Well, you're a professional, so you cheat, we're not" I had not acted professionally yet, I just had a degree, and other people that had degrees and things, they had gotten awards. It's part of the charismatic thing. People will either love you or hate you, and you cannot let other people's opinions of you matter, because then they drag your life. You don't live it.
The problem is that when the other people's who have those negative opinions also have authority and power.
Mhm. I
So,
know. Well, they all did, and they denied me what I deserved.
yeah.
But I learned then that don't expect anything from the world. If you want something, you are going to have to get it for yourself. Do not expect other people to appreciate you. You do something because you want to do it and not because of the reaction you're going to get. And that made me a much better intuitive because I didn't watch to see if somebody liked the message I was giving. Just another way that spirit said, we have to shape you in this form.
Right.
So
I mean, medieval Europe was a shitty place to be like the wise crone of the village, right? You don't.
oh yeah.
So, like, I was talking to this guy, Dr. Sledge, who's a scholar of like e esoteric occult knowledge, throughout the Western world. Like, Western occultism, I think, is actually the word, esotericism,
Mhm.
something like that. And, he's really into the witch trials, the, Christianization of Europe and how all that happened and everything. I was asking him questions about it, and he's coming from, like, a really kinda secular point of view of, like, you know, basically, it was just a bunch of women being tortured for no fucking reason because that's the Christian's point of view, and I'm like, "I get that," but, like, also, they had these belief systems that were being erased on purpose systematically,
Mhm.
right? Like, there's the what is it? The three-faced goddess, the maiden, the mother, the crone,
And the crone, yep.
Yeah. And just at that time, being the wise old woman who knew things that you're not supposed to know anymore and was passing that wisdom down to the knowledge, like, you wanna cut the head off the snake when you're moving into a new area, getting rid of the old ways and come out with the new ways, like, take out all the old women. They're always the ones who know everything. They're
Mhm.
the glue of a community. Um,
Exactly right.
yeah, but
It's one of the reasons why the current crop of folks
Mm,
want to totally destroy women's autonomy. They want
mm.
them barefoot, pregnant, and subservient because they know when we have our power, we can stand toe to toe with them. They don't like that.
You reckon that that's like an overall sort of decision from on high is like if we can control women, we can control everything.
Yes.
Mm.
When you aren't secure enough in your own power to share it, you cut down everything that could get in your way.
It's very interesting.
Yeah. And it's sad, but it's the way it is. And But no, it's only that way in this country. The one thing that keeps me hopeful is I remind myself the entire world is not going this way. America is going through a catharsis, but there are other countries that are perfectly normal and are moving ahead to the future wisely, competently, fairly.
What
You
are
know,
some of the countries you think are doing it the right way?
Canada's one.
Mm,
I loved I used to go up there for so many shows. Um, I had a B&B that I always stayed at that became my Canadian family.
mm.
The owners were Irish, and so I learned to come in and go, "Hello, the house!" And, immediately everybody's. Um, Canada's one. Um, Scandinavian countries have a better sense of how to take care of people, things like that. No country is perfect,
Yeah.
but we are in an extraordinarily dark time, and it's happened so fast. The other I'm just gonna call them the other side, were like termites, and they ate away at the foundation while we just thought the house was fine, and then they got into power, and a couple of bites, everything collapsed at once.
It is interesting. I think a lot of bad decisions get made oftentimes, like, as an afterthought or without being like, seeing the general like, the long-term repercussions of what that might mean in the immediate desire and, like, an honest desire to fix a problem that we're actually dealing with, and there's always gonna be, like, kind of a push and pull with that. Um, so it's what's fascinating is, we talk about in America, we don't really have much of a welfare state. And then I spent, like I said earlier, I lived in Scandinavia for a while, and Denmark is the king of welfare state. They figured that out as far as it'll go. And when I first, was there, I'm like, man, this is awesome. Like, nobody's homeless, starving in the streets. If you need medical care, you can get it, all that kind of stuff. And I still think that's cool. And then we were talking earlier about like rewarding kids in school for even if they're not really succeeding. And the dark side of that is that I think if like it's a Danish person listening, like they'll probably agree with me. The dark side of that is that you have a whole generation of people who can't look someone in the eye, can't talk to a stranger. They don't know what it's like to struggle at all. And so if they're ever faced with a struggle, they're immediately overcome by anxiety and an inability to act. And so there's got to be like a balance between that we're still finding, I think, overall. And America's on a totally different extreme from this. We're like, sink or swim, kid. And while it wasn't easy, I am personally really happy that I had kind of had a bit more sink or swim because I don't fall apart when something goes wrong. You know, I don't I don't have like the mindset of, well, if everything I do completely collapses and fails and I fuck myself over and make all the wrong decisions, at least the government will take care of me until I'm back on my feet. And that's nice to know that that option's there. But at the same time, it's like if you know that option's there, you make decisions a lot differently than you do if you have like the innate self responsibility. Um, so it's really really interesting. It was one of the most eye opening experiences of my life is just like immersing myself in that culture and seeing how people think. Um,
If America was not as completely different universes in terms of the wealthy and everybody else,
sure.
I might agree with you.
Uh,
One of the reasons we're this bad is because people are hopeless. People don't see any way of making their lives better, except they see people winning lotteries and, winning contests, things like that.
the joke
Um,
was that I moved to Europe to accomplish the American dream.
yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. You know, um, Up until 1980, it was a more reasonable disparity, if you will.
Sure.
And so people had hope and did believe that they could achieve and believe in themselves. Now, when they see The law only matters to the rich. Houses are only the rich. Everything goes to the rich, and we keep getting crushed. That's why there is so much rage. And the people that can grab the rage and manipulate it, even if it's taking the rageful people and making them vote against their own possibilities.
Sure.
That's the situation. So, yes, pick yourself up by the bootstraps. But for instance, you go and you fight in the war, you get the GI Bill. Will help you in college. Things like that are important. Now they want to make sure that there is nothing for anybody because they want a crushed, dumb, hopeless bunch of slaves and sheeple.
So
And they're making.
no, you're totally. That's kind of coming circle back to our education discussion from before, but it's still totally relevant. Like, I'm not so convinced that the reality of the situation is as dire as we believe the reality of the situation is. Like we think we have psychology used the term like learned helplessness, right?
Mhm.
So, I mean, I can speak for myself too. I was part of that generation where it's like, well, we're just not ever going to buy houses and we're never going to have kids because like who could raise a kid in this world, and I'm just going to be a wage slave for the rest of my life and whatever. And then as I just became more open-minded, I'm like, no, I can really totally just make these decisions for myself. Like, I can remove myself from this situation that I'm in, go join the military, make that sacrifice or whatever, and then come out of that with an education and, at least some financial footing. And then, it took me longer than, from my grandmother's generation, it was like, well, I'm 20 now, I guess I'll go buy a house and start a family. And then for me, it was like, okay, well, I did that at 30.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's it's not impossible. Like, I hope people like younger people don't just go get a vasectomy when they're 25, thinking like I'll never be in a position where I could start a family, or I'll never be in a position where I could own a home or whatever. These are things that we as a country have to address for sure. But
Do not blame women if they get sterilized because
Mm.
in this country now, it's a crapshoot.
uh,
If, you could die in childbirth, or if you have a miscarriage, they'll kill you for murder. This
mm.
is the most dangerous country in the world for women to have children. So, if they want to sterilize themselves, I have no problem with that.
There's
Uh,
arguably places in Africa and the Middle East where it's worse, but I totally take your meaning. Like,
yeah.
yeah,
Um,
um,
and I love the kind of backbone and grit and strength and mind that you have. There are people in the world who are like that, and
mm,
they're the ones who are going to foment the revolution. Resolution is also a good word.
mm.
Um, to break down what's happening now and rebuild. They will be the ones that go from the tower card to the next one.
Sure. Yeah, we're all working towards the universe, hopefully at some point. But that is, you need diplomats who can relate to the people on the other side of your argument, right? So,
Yeah,
I mean, you, as tempting as it is to be like violently angry at someone who is obviously in power and doing something that is like against your will, you still need that person who can go sit in, like, I don't know, the Congress building or whatever and talk to the people on the other side and hopefully work together to come to some kind of resolution. Whereas if it's just completely like, fuck you, fuck everything you think, I think you're evil, even if that's all true, it's like you'll never get anywhere with that. We'll never reach equilibrium with polarity, right? It doesn't seem to be good. And for the last while, it's gotten bad. Like I left in 2021, 22, something like that. I was like, I'm out of here, and hopefully some things change before I come back. And then I came back, and obviously it was like, all right, well, we still have a lot of work to do. Um,
yeah,
but see, seeing how like it felt like for a long time we were just not allowed to speak our mind at all. Like if you don't agree with the zeitgeist, you're silenced, shut up, told be like don't even say anything, whatever. And it doesn't matter which side of that argument is in control at the time, just silencing people from being able to say what they really feel is bad.
Yep.
Like, and you get the more recent influx because the people on that side of the fence felt like they didn't have a voice at all for a really long time. So then they show up in droves and they're like, nope, we want this and this and this and that. Then they get everything they want for a while and the pendulum swings back. But I really do hope we just get to a point where we can all be like, yeah, we're Americans and we're all, I talked to, my grandparents and folks from that generation. It was like, it was considered impolite to ask someone who they voted for. Like, you just didn't do that. We solved that in the voting booth and we don't fucking have that conversation at the Thanksgiving dinner table. And now it's like, go on Twitter and like every Thanksgiving is like advertising to young people like how to deal with your uncle who doesn't agree with you or whatever. Like, why do you have to deal with that? Just there should be sanctuary spaces where we can set those differences aside. And if you want to go be part of a group where you can talk about those kinds of things, talk about it. But that doesn't need to be solved with like angst. I don't think that the solution is to just only anger, like bring a hammer at it.
I agree with that. But if you roll it back,
Sure.
it used to be Republicans and Democrats, they'd wrangle things in Congress, but then they could go have lunch together.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
if the red is seen talking civilly to the blue or the blue to the red, they're primaried out.
Race traitors, thought crime, 1984. Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I like having these long conversations where it's just so you can really just kind of like figure out, I'm like, what do you really think? How do you really feel about this? And like, I'm sure if someone were to like listen to every episode of the show, they'd be like, man, Tyler doesn't seem to believe in anything. And I'm like, well, I do have certain things that I'm like, I'm not shaking on, but no, I'm just open-minded. Like, I'm really curious because I might learn something from you today and something from somebody else tomorrow. And then like a week ago, I had a completely different conversation. And the truth for me is probably somewhere in between.
Mhm.
I'm not just going to agree with whatever, but I'm also going to like I can have a conversation with a fucking psychic today and a priest tomorrow and a guy who thinks that the world is ran by alien reptiles and learn something from every single one of you.
Yep. No, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. You have to be willing to be who you are. I mean, I cannot tell you how many times
Uh-huh.
I have done a podcast, and when they shut off the mic, they go, God, you're nothing like any psychic I've ever known. Nobody talks like you do. I don't know why, unless they think they have to have an image.
There's a stereotype. You have an idea in your mind of like, this is what a clairvoyant person is like, and it's like a Eastern European woman with jewels and all this kind of shit.
It's the fake, yeah.
Crystals and
I refer to those as the Madame Hoo-Ha's and the Swami Swalandas. Like,
sure.
No.
And go to Eastern Europe and talk to people there about what they believe, and it's extraordinarily interesting. Like if you grow up in relatively secular America or something like that, and then you go to like the Czech Republic, go to a bar and just start drinking with people. And like, what do you think of the gypsies? They'll fucking tell you, and they're way more open minded to magic and outside forces than you would be led to believe.
But they will refer to them as Roma, not gypsies.
Depends on what language you're speaking.
Right. Because I
They'll
know
refer to them as a lot of other words too that I'm not gonna.
Oh, they will. I know. But over here, gypsy is considered a pejorative.
I didn't even know that gypsy was a race of people. I grew up, it was like gypsy. Oh, Fleetwood Mac, man, like sick.
Yeah,
Cool. And then
a bachelorette party next week, and Stevie Nicks is this theme, so I'm sure that I'll hear that song a lot.
Sure. Yeah, and then it wasn't until I was around a bunch of like Russian people that I started to hear it as a pejorative term. I'm like, what do you mean by that? Like, when you say that, like, who are you talking about? Like, oh, the fucking Roma people. I'm like, oh, geez, like it's like that, and it sucks that it's like a racial connotation because it's like it's not like everybody with the last name Popa or some shit is a bad person. It's just that that's the the way history unfolded, such that you have a group of people who are making a living in that way. That sucks. I had one dude tell me if his mother was he was in Czechia and his mother was from Slovakia, and he was like, if I could bleed her blood out of my body, I would. And I'm like, that's insane. Maybe you should stop drinking. But it's not even as bad. Like, honestly, the problems we have against each other in America seem pretty trivial next to like talking between European countries and some of the 1,000-year-old problems that they share and have and hold on to. And I'm sure it's worse than, if you go to Iraq. What's your beef with Persia? Like, I'd made that mistake one time. Like, aren't you guys kind of like the same? Like, haven't you guys had babies and stuff across that border for like a bunch of time? Like, huge mistake. Got yelled at for even bringing that idea up.
And until we embrace that idea, wars won't stop.
Probably not. But as you said earlier, there's got to be, the people who are coming along who are the kind of peacemaker type folks. Like, there's the revolutionaries, and then they're like, all right, well, now that you've broken some things, somebody's got to put this all back together.
The bridge builders.
Sure.
The bridge builders.
Sure. Masons, people who build things with bricks. Maybe they chose that name for a reason. No. Well, thank you very much for your time. I don't want to we don't have to go the full 3 hours, but this has been really fun, really informative, and
You're very easy to talk to, Tyler. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think we can. I'll make sure all your books and your website and all that stuff goes in the show notes and all that.
Yeah, and definitely TikTok.
Sure. Yeah, we'll put the TikTok link in. Is that on your website too? I'm sure I can grab it.
I can do, actually, if you in my signature, you'll see it. All the things.
Awesome.
In my signature on the email.
All right. Well, good luck with your next book, and I look forward to your podcast coming back. And if you ever have anything new to share, maybe when your next book comes around or something like that, hit me up.
As we say in New York, we'll talk, we'll have fortune,
Nos vemos.
You got it.
Thank you very much to the wonderful Reverend Corbie for coming on the show and talking about all that stuff. Very insightful. It's always great to have all these different perspectives, man. What an adventure. I guess I'm recording it beforehand, but past couple of months worth of recordings has been. I hope y'all are enjoying the ride. I'm really looking forward to hearing what people say. Discord.inthekeep.com, best way to join the conversation for sure. But also, if you're listening on YouTube or Spotify or iTunes or wherever, leave comments. Yeah. Amazing. Thank you to our Patreon supporters. You're wonderful. Could not be doing this without y'all's support, for real. It's carried us through the years, and I hope that some of you out there who are listening, if you want to support the show, the best way to do so, and of course you can do that Patreon shit if you would like. I'd greatly appreciate it, but, tell a friend, spread the word, help us get the message out, all that stuff. It's the best thing you can do. For real, for real. Take care of yourself. I love you. God love you. Stay in the keep. Let's take a moment to talk about Appalachia TCG. Whether you're searching for sports cards, Magic the Gathering, Flesh and Blood, Pokemon, or Yu-Gi-Oh!, they can offer you an extensive selection to suit every collector and competitor. As an official reseller, they are committed to providing authentic booster packs, singles, accessories, and rare finds that set them apart from competitors. They buy and sell lots of trading cards and toys, but their special is the Flesh and Blood trading card game, and they run official events, pre-releases, and more. Along with their ever-growing community, Appalachia TCG is the premium spot for trading, buying, and selling cards. I know what you're thinking, but I don't live in Eastern Kentucky. Well, that's the best part. You can shop online and in person. there is the official TCG Player Shop, eBay store, and online shop. Head on over to AppalachiaTCG.com. That's AppalachiaTCG.com. Tell them In the Keep sent you.
Hi, I'm Ben, host of the Field and Foley podcast. Every episode I sit down with incredible guests, not just sound designers, field recorders or musicians, but experts in everything about audio. We explore the creative process behind the sounds that shape our favorite games, films and experiences. Whether you're an audio professional or just someone who loves great sound, Field and Foley offers deep dives, behind-the-scenes stories and insights you won't hear anywhere else.